I challenge your coaches and consultants to think differently when it comes to this tool. It's not putting you out of business. As a matter of fact, it's opening up the floodgates so that you can receive more, you can do more, profit more, and possibly do less work.
Salette, how did you get interested in this whole ChatGPT AI kind of thing?
So I've actually been a bit of a tech nerd or a software nerd for decades. I used to live in Silicon Valley. All of my friends and everyone I knew, we just talked about software and tech all the time. I don't program the software, I don't make them, but I've always loved playing in them. And with managing a staff of people and being responsible for training, I was in property management. I always had to find creative ways to get my team to be successful. And I dubbed it the lazy productive way.
Yeah.
Because I wanted everybody to do good work, but I wanted them to do it quickly. And then I wanted them to maximize their impact across everything they were doing. And I've always found that there was a software solution for something. So when this came out, oh my God.
Right. All right. So we're going to talk a little while about ChatGPT specifically. And then we'll get into bigger topics. So let's just talk about this incredibly fun tool.
It really is a fun tool. So it's funny because I found out about it right after the holidays. I was behind on getting some work done for my business because I'd gotten the flu. So I was down with the flu for a week. And because I had absolutely nothing to do, I just started watching tech news and reading tech articles. And then I kept seeing the same word come up over and over and over again. And I was like, oh my God, I have to find out what this thing is. And it only took one time for me to type one question in this tool, and I knew it was going to change the landscape of everyone's lives, and especially solopreneurs or people who are trying to build a business on their own, and they may not have the budget or the capacity or capability to hire a staff. Now they can train this tool, even at its infancy. They can train it to do some work that will help collapse months into minutes in their business.
Yes, awesome. So how can we do that? Like, take us through, like, what's the way to collapse months into minutes?
So the very first thing, in my opinion, is to understand that this is a tool, right? It's just like your laptop. It's just like your telephone. It's just like a pencil. You will utilize it as a tool. As such, you have to know going into it from a business perspective. So everything I'm going to talk about is from the business perspective. You have to go into it knowing and understanding what you would like it to do for you. It's just like hiring a new team member and bringing them on. You would not hire a new team member and say, hey, you are now in charge of marketing my business. And then you grab your keys, you leave them in the office, and then you take off. That would just be foolish. They would have no idea. Well, you have to approach this in the same manner. So with every conversation, if it's okay, I'd like to share some tips that I shared in a recent workshop that I just did. So and this is, again, just one tip. There are so many of them. So when you go into this tool, one of the things that you want it to do, even if it's a brand new conversation, you want to tell it, forget all previous prompts. Forget everything. I want you to start with a clean slate, right? And also, you must understand that this tool is not connected to the internet, although there are some Google Chrome extensions now that will allow it to connect to the internet. I was playing with one on my Facebook page yesterday.
Mhm.
You tell it to forget everything, and then you have to give it an identity.
Mhm.
You and the identity should be a high level identity based on the task that you want it to do for you.
Okay. So
So
can you
if
give us
you
an
want it,
example of that?
sure. So if you wanted to write you, let's say, an ebook,
Mhm.
you would tell it to forget all previous prompts, and then you give it the identity. You are a Pulitzer Prize winning author
Mhm.
who specializes in creating books either for companies or writing high level books on this particular topic.
Mhm.
You have X amount of experience, X amount of years of experience utilizing in this field, and you have received these types of accolades. You have now given it a very clear professional identity.
Right.
And right after that, you want to outline the task that you want it to do.
Mhm.
So you tell it exactly what you want it to do for you, and you
Mhm.
say, this is the task, or you have been tasked with,
Mhm.
doing whatever it is that you want it to do.
Writing this
And then
ebook on
ask
this
it,
topic.
exactly. And then you ask it, do you understand?
Oh, good, good.
You want to make sure that it actually understands your prompts, your commands, in exactly the way that you would speak to a new employee. You would ask it, do you understand this task
Yes.
that I've asked you to do for me? And
Great.
then you will now ask the AI, you would now ask ChatGPT to ask you relevant high-level questions related to the delivery of this task to ensure it understands what you want and
Mhm.
to ensure it is delivering exactly what you want,
Yeah.
and for it to fill in the gap for anything that you may not have thought of.
Love it.
It asks you the questions, you answer them, and then you tell it begin the task.
Okay, so I super, super loved everything that you just said. It's like just such an amazing way to use this tool. And what I most love about ChatGPT is that why I'm not using like a Jasper or something else like that. I'm sure those are great tools, but I love working with the tool itself because of the way that I'm able to be in conversation with it, just like I would with an employee, as you're talking about. But what I want to point out that you've said, I have a client in particular, even though I have many clients who work in leadership development. One of the problems that we have with leaders is that when they give instructions, they just say something off the top of their head, like, hey, go write an ebook. And they aren't clear about the specifics of what they want. And so they don't always get what they want. And then they'll complain about employees when the problem is that they're not giving clear instructions. And I feel like as humans, like, yes, this is the thing. We feel like when we say something, we're being clear, but we're not. And the way that you've just described how we should interact with the tool is exactly the way that we should interact with our team members and our employees.
Certainly.
And being that specific. And I think also, by the way, with ourselves about like, what do I really want? So loved that example. And I feel like it's true in leadership with people, and it's true with this tool. And how to get specifically what we want is like, tell it exactly what you want and make sure it knows before you hit submit.
That's spot on. That's spot on. And it's also important for the entrepreneur to recognize in themselves, because most people who start a business, we have the vision, right? It's our baby. We have this really grand vision of what we would like it to be. We're visionaries.
Mm-hmm.
We're visionaries. But just because we're visionaries doesn't necessarily mean we're fantastic at implementation.
Right. Details.
So you can take a look at, utilizing this tool as the implementer in your company, or at least the person that you can task with coming up with the implementation. Right now, it does not absolve the leader, it does not absolve the user from the responsibilities of fact checking, to ensure that all of this information is accurate, because ChatGPT is only trained on data up to 2021. We're in 2023. There's an entire year of data that's not necessarily in the tool. And we're not exactly sure, because I've read opposing facts from different sources saying that the prompts that we're typing into ChatGPT goes into training the machine, but then OpenAI says that it doesn't. So we're not sure what's true. So I'm assuming that the prompts, I'm going with the most conservative assumption that the prompts are not training it, and that it is only machine trained up until 2021. If that's the case, then it is very limited in what the output that it can give to you. So you're responsible for going back and fact checking.
Definitely.
But yesterday I tested this one output, this one Chrome extension, and it's not perfect. However, it was able to tap into more current information. Probably not news that happened the day before, but maybe things that happened a week ago.
Oh, wow.
It was able to tap into that, and it provided me references and things like that. I cannot off the top of my head remember the name of the tool right now.
We'll put it in the show notes, but yes. Okay. And I've also been testing some Chrome extensions to sit on top of the tool. But and to improve it, but for what it is right now, I think it's been pretty amazing. So talk more about implementation, because I feel like what I've been using it for, and what I think a lot of people have been using it for, has been brainstorming, coming up with ideas and lists of things. I know somebody was shocked because putting together a meal plan for the week would be very difficult for them. And so they put together, they gave it the prompt, it put together a meal plan for the week, as well as the shopping list to go with it. Like that kind of thing, it is amazing at. It's like in 15 seconds, it returns your whole, whatever. Where ideation, I had it come up with an outline for something. A lot of people are loving it for subject lines. Like the amount of copywriting in general that it can do is pretty amazing. So why don't I pause there and say, what are you using it for in terms of copywriting? And then what are the deeper ways that you're taking it into implementation?
I think a shorter answer would be, what am I not using it for? Because I'm using it for everything. I use it for brainstorming. I use it for creating outlines. I use it for creating scripts. So I asked it to create a script for a Reels for me the other day, and I was expecting it to just give me just the script itself, the things that I would speak into the microphone. But no, it came back with an entire prompt, almost like a stage play. It told me exactly where to stand, what I needed to be holding, and what I needed to say in this particular frame, where I needed to turn my body. And it's all because of the prompt that I had given it and the identity that I had given it before we got started. So it actually assumed the role of that the high level professional, and it directed me.
Oh, so what was it? You gave it right? You gave it who is it? The famous director. Anyway, a famous director.
Like a Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese. You're Martin Scorsese directing my reel. Yeah.
Precisely.
I love it. Right.
And it does amazing things.
Yeah.
And how high level you can go with this tool really depends on the operator.
Yeah.
And so this is why it's important. I hear a lot of times, I don't know if this is something you wanted to talk about later on, but I hear a lot of people now saying that this tool is going to take their jobs. There is going to take a lot of jobs out of the market.
Right.
And it will. It will. I will not be a hypocrite and say, no, it's not. However, I believe that there are some true opportunities coming down the pipeline that don't exist right now.
Yeah.
So yes, it is going to take away some positions in the market, only because this tool will allow fewer people to do more. So now the higher level members of organizations, I think, are going to have to step up to their responsibilities and be seen, because they are the ones who are going to be manipulating and driving this machine. So the folks who are skating by, exactly. So anybody who is skating by is not going to be able to do that anymore.
Right. So what as you're saying, and I completely agree with you, because I think there's been a lot of panic and hysteria around it for like copywriters losing their jobs. And what I would look at, because I have people who write on my team, and I'm saying, and I shared this with them and talked about how much I want to use this in our business and what I want it to do. What I would rather they be doing, rather than taking an article and writing 4 different versions of it. I do this podcast, and then we have show notes, and then we have a transcript, and then we send to social media posts and things like that.
Right.
Well, if I can put this podcast transcript into ChatGPT and it can generate those things, which, as you're saying, need to be tidied up, if we're honest.
Yes.
And curated or carefully or edited, like somebody has to supervise this employee, then everybody who used to do that writing just got a promotion, because they're going to be editing work.
Precisely.
Okay, but that's going to be a little bit of editing work. But when I used to spend hours doing this, what am I going to do? I'm like, do something cooler and more creative. Like, let's write a marketing strategy. Like, again, everybody just got elevated into something.
Yes.
I think they could do better. Like, come up with some cool ideas. I don't want to reduce anyone's hours necessarily. I want to focus them on things that aren't, and copywriting isn't grunt work, but if this machine can do it, then like it is the equivalent of grunt work. Like, do something that this machine couldn't do. So come up with that
exactly
insanely
right.
creative prompt, right?
That's exactly right. And so if you had, let's say, 3 or 4 people on the team and they were dedicated to copywriting 8 hours a day, well, now you have this tool that maybe 1 or 2 people can focus on operating, and 2 others can now elevate themselves to bring another type of value to the organization. And it could be in line with copywriting, or it could be in line with marketing. It could be in line with lead generation or social media engagement. But whatever it is, you can now better utilize the members of your team to bring even more value to your company while still staying in line with your budget. Because you have this new employee now that you can task 24/7, and it never gets tired as long as you feed it electricity.
Right, exactly. And I know a lot of people are experiencing that it's like it's down for them or whatever, and I'm like, just refresh.
It is.
And
it really upsets me, because I see a lot of people in some of the groups, and it's almost like they're trying to break the machine, or they're trying to prove that the machine is dumb. And again, I go back to operator error. If you ask it a silly question, it's going to give you a silly answer. But a lot of these folks are taking up the bandwidth.
With their idiotic requests.
It's causing problems for everybody else who actually want to use it to work.
Interesting. Cool. So I want to get back to implementation, because I love implementation. So how can I get this tool to do more implementation?
So believe it or not, focusing on one task at a time.
Okay.
Just focusing on one task at a time. So for example, if you know that today you want to crank out a blog post, right? Instead of planning for one blog post, why not plan for 20 blog posts for the entire month? Okay. So if you wake up and your focus is strictly on blogs today, you can, on a high level, generate the outlines. You can generate the posts themselves. You can generate the marketing strategy for distributing these blog posts. You can generate the social media posts that you're going to utilize to market these. If you're doing organic marketing, you can generate the paid ad campaigns that you're going to use. And so this is a way, I believe, that I have found has worked for me. I can have all of these different ideas about what I want to do for my business with this tool. However, I find that I get done more when I just focus. So today we're focusing just on this.
Yep.
Because now you can start with the prompt that I gave you. You give it the identity, you tell it what you want it to do, And then you can really tell it, okay, once you write out this blogs for me for the month, how am I, this is my desire. This is my desired outcome. Come up with a marketing strategy for that. And so now you can further break down that task all the way down to the marketing strategy, apart from getting the blogs written. And then tomorrow you can work on something else. But now everything that you're doing, let's say everything that you're doing today about the blog, you're covering all that you need to do for a month.
Yeah. Yes.
And then tomorrow you can cover all you need to do for something else for an entire month or a quarter.
Yeah.
So this is, to me, that is the greatest implementation hack.
Yeah.
That I can give. Literally focus on one thing. Start your week knowing what you would like the end of your week to look like, and break that down into the bigger picture steps of what you would like to do each and every single day that you're working that week.
Fabulous.
And by the end of the week, you have a whole bunch of stuff. You have like a month's worth of work done. This is how you collapse, months into minutes.
Yeah, I did it with my podcast planning. I had it plan out because I have 10 drivers in my system, which are the different aspects of ways that you grow a consulting business, everything from strategic visibility to mindset for success. And so I had ChatGPT come up with topics for an episode for a season on each of the drivers. So it came up with 12 for each of those. So that's 12 times 10. And then there were a few kind of more specific areas. So I'm thinking of doing next season on money. So I was like, okay, so if we did a season on money, then money through the lens of each of these drivers. So it did that. Sometimes it'd do something I didn't like, so I would refine the prompt. So talk a little bit about refining a prompt. So I put something in and it gives me an answer that I don't love, which again, this is the same thing that would happen if I was a leader with an employee.
Precisely.
I would say, hey, go brainstorm this for me. And they would bring it back and I would look at it and I'd be like, I'm not loving this direction. I'm going to give you a little correction, and they'd be like, cool, got it. And they would go back and try harder on the new version. So what does that look like with ChatGPT?
So with ChatGPT, what you would want to do if it gives you an output that you do not like. So let's say you've gone through a string of outputs on the same conversation, and you finally get to this one output where it's just not exactly what you want. You can go back to that very last prompt and you can either edit it, or what I do sometimes is I will copy that last prompt that it did not get correctly. I would paste it into a new prompt below that, and I would make the alterations to that particular prompt. But I would also tell ChatGPT, this is what I was looking for. You did not deliver the output that I expected. This is what I was expecting. I need you to do better.
Okay.
And then I would remind it of its identity, because sometimes why that's happening is because it forgot.
It does forget. Yeah, I have seen that too.
And when I'm not, so this is a little bit wonky for me that I've discovered this past week. Sometimes it will remember the entire conversation thread, everything from the very top all the way to the bottom.
Yeah.
Other times it will still go back to remembering 3,000 to 5,000 characters, which is what the first iteration did. So now I have been copying. So if I wanted to write me, let's say 20 emails, I'm not sure it's going to remember the full extent of the full instructions that I've given it in the prompt. What I will do, and you know how it stops, like it will write the 5 emails and then it stops, and then you have to tell it to continue. Yeah. I will copy the original prompt, and this has been working very well for me. And I will say, continue. You only delivered emails 1 through 5. I need 5 through 25. I mean 6 to 25 based on this prompt.
Good.
And then I paste the prompt. So this way it remembers its identity again.
Good. I think that's really helpful because I've had it also kind of go. And then I've said, continue that list. And sometimes it'll start over again instead of,
Yes.
and I think, but again, garbage in, garbage out, like was continue that list confusing? We can't always know, because sometimes I'll say, write a social post based on this text, and it'll do it. And then I'll say, excuse me, then I'll say like, write another one. Same instructions, and like it'll do it again. So sometimes you can be kind of brief with it and conversational, and then sometimes, as you're saying, it forgets. And I have noticed like it kind of can come in and out of knowing either my voice or the identity that I've given it when it's a really, really long. And I have a few that are since I started using the tool, so those are months old at this point. Where I think it can kind of forget itself. So I love the idea of like reminding it who it is, and then restating the task and clarifying that task. And I haven't had it generate like 20 emails. That's a pretty big task. Okay.
But I was going to say, up until a couple of days ago, you used to be able to say continue.
Yes.
And it would continue the conversation. But I've noticed just in recent days, I will tell it to continue, and it will start all over from the start of the prompt, or it will forget its identity altogether, which is why I started copying the original prompt right from the start. Because I know, especially if I'm asking it to do a very long task, I know I'm going to have to paste the prompt in there again. So I've just started doing that, and I've had no issues.
That's good.
Since doing this.
Are you cutting and pasting the responses that it gives you and keeping them somewhere else for yourself, or are you using Zapier for that?
I have a Notion board, and I actually put all of my my finalized work and the prompts that are working really well for me. I put those in a Notions board, but I copy the entire conversation and leave it there, because I want to be able to, I want to be able to go back and re-review it, because I may want it to do a similar task in the future, but maybe I just want to tweak something. I didn't like the way it responded when it got to the 5th step or something. So I want to keep everything for documentation and for studying.
That's good. It's smart. The value is in these prompts. And I know that a lot of people are selling courses and like monetizing ChatGPT, which I don't really have a problem with. And I think you are doing that as well. And, more power to you. And I also feel like I want people to just play, like, play with it, like teach yourself some things. And maybe that's my experimental nature, but I feel like, and I also don't feel super intimidated by technology, but like get in there and like figure out what it will do. Like I didn't read anybody's how-to before I got in there. I just got in there and was like, well, I don't know, what will this thing do? And like, what would it say? And like, what can I ask? So I do.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to advocate for, before you buy somebody's something, just like go play with it. And then at least, like I got it to do this and that was cool, but I can't do it to get it to do this. Precisely. And then you see the real value of what somebody's selling.
Precisely. And so this is that's why I actually created, so I did a workshop this past Saturday, and I only charged like $25 for my workshop. I think the next one will be like a little bit higher, but and it was because I saw that people were selling courses for like $300 and $500.
$1,000.
Yeah, and they were basically going to be showing people some of the same exact things. So this was like a 2.5-hour workshop, and I basically focused on prompting all of these. There are so many different ways to utilize prompts. And a lot of people who were struggling, because a lot of the folks I'm connected with are solopreneurs, makers, like soap makers and candle makers, people who are making things, and they have like an e-commerce shop, and they struggle with coming up with marketing strategies. They don't know how to create a content plan, so when I was sick over the holidays with the flu, and I saw this, I actually saw this as the answer to helping me with my business and marketing clients, the ones that I'm consulting for their businesses, because now I can show them how to add this as a supportive tool underneath their efforts, in order for them to really build some strong foundations under their businesses.
Totally.
And now they don't have to be so stressed out because they're the only person in their business. So I want them to use this as a tool. But yeah.
That's such a great point. And I forget that your audience, thank you for saying you're working with people in e-commerce, and, especially, when I'm working with people in services, and people in services, and they're are necessarily creating a lot of content that's like written content. And so to me, this is like so obviously great for us, because it can, if you cut and paste what ChatGPT puts out, most people right now are going to be able to see it, because it's not that sharp. Even if I say write something in my voice, you can still read it and see like, I think that like probably AI
I've been
wrote
seeing that
that
a lot on my Facebook. So I'm like, oh, that was ChatGPT there. Oh my God, this was done in ChatGPT.
Unedited, uncurated, the raw content. Now I'm trusting that it's going to be in a year, it'll be indiscernible, I think, because I think it's really the machine is going to learn. But for right now, we can tell if you just cut and paste it.
It's also not a good idea to do that at all.
Exactly. We'll say more about that, because let's just talk a little bit of originality and ethics, please.
So apart from originality and ethics, there are also all of these GPT trackers that are being installed online, right? To ensure that the information that is being uploaded into the internet is not more filth and garbage or untruths, right? That is going to steer somebody wrong. And plus, I think Google, for example, want people to produce authentic information. They want you to write things in your own voice. So they don't want to make it super simple for you to just churn out 100 posts or 100 blogs in one day, because you can copy and paste all day long, but that doesn't mean the information is correct. It doesn't mean that it's authentic. And so it's important. So this is what I was saying earlier. This tool does not absolve anyone from the responsibility of fact checking and just repurposing the content to make it sound more like you. You're not going to make any sales. You're not going to connect with any of your core audience when you're just copying and pasting something out of ChatGPT and putting it on your website, because your audience has gotten used to your voice, your values. What you bring to the table. So use what ChatGPT gave you, and then turn it into something that feels more authentic to you and your brand.
Yes. And when somebody says, well, now that we can just have ChatGPT do it, why wouldn't I just do this? And how do I even differentiate from that? I'm like, here's my challenge for you. Write something that ChatGPT couldn't write. Like, tell me a story, make that a creative challenge for yourself. And I was going to talk about your e-commerce clients, not that they're not writing, but a lot of in e-commerce, it can be more about kind of like products and images and things like that. But what differentiates one e-commerce shop from any other is going to be like the unique story behind the product. So if one widget here and one widget here, why do I buy it from over here? Well, because of the shop's values, or what they're doing, or the people behind it. And the human factor is going to be the thing that AI is going to be struggling to match as it goes forward into becoming more and more learning, right?
That's spot on. That's
so
spot on.
I'm sure the thing that we all can do is take, and this is what I've been doing with it, by the way, is I'll have it brainstorm some bullet points for me, and then I'll be like, cool, those are the bullet points. Now I'm going to tell a story about every single bullet point, or I'm going to give an example of it, and it's a launching pad. But again, I feel like maybe you and I are more like adaptive to this, because you took to it just like I did. Like I was like, well, yay, and I didn't feel afraid and worried about it.
Not at all.
So for people who are like, maybe the writing isn't a strong suit for them, or maybe they feel like I don't know how to add creativity to it, then kind of what suggestions and guidance could you give them?
And this is exactly my target audience. So because makers tend to just want to make pretty stuff, right? So I'm a soap maker myself. I own a soap company as well. So if I could, I would just sit and swirl my pretty soap batter all day long. I don't want to think about writing the emails, right? I don't want to think about doing all of these marketing planning. I do it because I have the business background. I have a business degree. So for me, I already have that established background. I'm just tying it into my e-commerce business. But I have other e-com folks who are fantastic in their zones of genius, but marketing, business management, copywriting, this does not fall within their wheelhouse. So they need a little bit of assistance from a tool or somebody that they could have hired, but now they can hire this tool.
Perfect.
So this is fantastic for somebody who has a business that they would like to, just take it up a notch, to be a little bit more competitive in the market, but maybe they can't afford to hire a team. This is a wonderful tool to leverage in order to do that. So it again, you just have to know what you want, who you are, who your audience is. And that's the biggest thing, just like with any other business. If you come to this as a business owner, knowing who your dream avatar is, the job is so much easier. The output from this tool is going to be spot on. If you come to it and you know your dream avatar and you know your core values, you know your audience's core values, you know you have your audience information dialed in, you know your business's mission, you cannot fail when you're creating prompts within this tool, because you'll know exactly what you need to say to it. And this is what's going to make you stand out from the other person who's doing exactly the same thing as you. Because a lot of people, and I'm sure you can attest to this, a lot of business owners do not have their avatar dialed in.
Right. Yeah. And so it's the garbage in, garbage out process, as we were saying. I think when I read the output and it really, really resonates, I feel like that's when this is why we're also mind blown in the beginning. Is like, that is freakily amazing and good. But as you're saying, like, I really know my audience and I really know what I want to say to them. I want to transition to one last thing before we go, because I think this is one of the most powerful pieces of it. A lot of us, it's the customer service emails. A lot of us have that kind of debilitating thing of like somebody written us an email and we're like, oh, I don't know what to say. And it's like those kinds of emails can be like, it's not creative, it's just process and things like that. So just get back to somebody and tell them no to this or whatever. I'm finding those some of the most helpful things. And what's funny is I've demonstrated that for my clients, because they've said, well, so-and-so got back to me with this email to say this. Well, how do I say blah, blah, blah to this? And so I put that into ChatGPT and I cut and paste, and I'll show them, I put that into chat and here's what it said. And I kind of agree with it. What do you think? Not to work myself out of a job, but sometimes it can do a really good job with that. So what are the times that you've been using it that way?
I have been using it to not only answer customer emails in that fashion, but I also put in there prompts for it to come up with an outline for me for storytelling emails. So certain experiences I've had throughout my day, they're my experiences. I went through them, but I want to send that in an email to my clients in a more interesting, I want to make light of this particular situation, but I don't have the mental capacity to just sit down and write out this very clever email. So I will put in the facts. I will say, this happened to me today, and I want you to build out a sequence or an email that I can send to my audience, who are these people, about this thing. And I wanted to have this type of feel, this type of tone. This is the emotion I want this email to bring out in the reader. And then I will tell it to write it. If I don't like what it said, I will say, change this, rewrite it, but change this section. Or add something, make it more funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make it more emotional. I've been using it. I've been using it for that. Like I've been using it nonstop for emails.
Just terrific. Just terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I know we could keep talking on and on about this. I really, really appreciate the nuggets you shared. The more someone is using the tool, the more valuable those tips will be. So I'm just going to share that, because if somebody's heard this and they feel like, I don't get it, then you need to go play with ChatGPT, come back and listen to this again. And then you're going to be like, that was a money tip. So
and
really
I'd like to share one final thing, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
So I hear, a lot of my friends are coaches and such, and I've heard a few of them say, well, this is going to put me out of business, right? Because if people can go into ChatGPT to ask it these questions, they're not going to need me. And I tell them, just like I will tell everybody else, that is so wrong. Because again, if you're using this tool and you're focused on in your zone of genius, right? If you're a nurse and you're using it within your zone of genius and you're asking it nursing related questions, right? You're not going to possibly be stepping into your zone of genius when you're asking it about copywriting questions. So you're still going to need guidance from a professional so that you can at least book a consultation and extract the framework that you need in order to get the results that you're hoping for. So I challenge you, coaches and consultants, to think differently when it comes to this tool. It's not putting you out of business. As a matter of fact, it's opening up the floodgates so that you can receive more, you can do more, profit more, and possibly do less work.
Much less work.
That's my opinion.
I completely agree with you. I just think it's the best thing to happen. It's really one of the most exciting developments in my business. I've been in business for 20 years, and I think, there was the internet before, but I'm like, I've been telling people, you cannot exaggerate the importance of this. It's like there was the internet, and then there was social media, and then now there's ChatGPT. It's like these things are this big. So
and it's just the beginning. This thing is just an infant.
This tool kind of sucks right now, and it's still mind-blowing. Like compared,
Can you imagine in 5 years what this is going to be like? Oh my, I can't wait.
I know. I can't
wait.
I, for one, welcome our robot overlords. So it's been super to talk with you, Salette. Where can people learn more about you? Where can we follow you? Take your trainings, all those kinds of things.
So I'm mostly on my Facebook profile. So you can find me on Facebook, Salette Thimot-Campos. Right now I'm wearing this baseball cap, this all military gear, but I'll share the link with you. And I just started a a YouTube channel, and I'm calling it Intelligent E-commerce.
Perfect.
So folks can find me there. I'm really focusing my attention on just those two platforms right now.
Good for you. Very smart advice. Thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation and for the fun. And I've been really enjoying your Facebook and what you're sharing, your lives that you do. So it's just been really super. And I am loving connecting with everybody who is also having so much fun with this tool. So that has been great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thanks for having me.
And with that, Salette and I are wishing you a profitable and joyful consulting business. Thanks for watching. I'd appreciate if you'd like this episode, and if you enjoyed the show, why not subscribe? Be sure to click the bell to get notified when new episodes drop.